April 13th, 1912, the Atlantic lay still. Titanic cut through the water like a floating palace. To passengers, it was a dream. To the crew, a routine voyage. But beyond the horizon, danger stirred. The sea was whispering its warnings. Few would listen. Titanic had been at sea for 3 days. By now, life aboard had settled into rhythm. In first class, passengers dined on lavish meals and strolled the promenades, marveling at the sheer luxury. In second class, scholars, professionals, and middle-class families found themselves in accommodations finer than many first-class hotels ashore. In third class, emigrants danced, laughed, and dreamed of new lives in America. It seemed nothing could break the mood of triumph. Titanic glided smoothly across the Atlantic, her engines steady, her course direct. Yet beneath the surface of this calm journey, warning signs were gathering. Ice was drifting unusually far south that year. Reports from other ships painted a troubling picture. Massive bergs, fields of floating ice, and dangerous conditions along Titanic's planned route. On April 13th, the Coronia sent a message, proceeding through fields of ice, numerous bergs. Later that day, the Baltic warned, large icebergs and field ice in latitude 41 degrees, 51 minutes north, longitude 49 degrees, 52 minutes west. These warnings were received in Titanic's wireless room. Jack Phillips and Harold Bride, the young Marconi operators, jotted them down and passed them along. The information reached the bridge, but it was routine. Warnings of ice were common on transatlantic voyages. Titanic was, after all, unsinkable. Or so many believed. Captain Edward Smith, nearing retirement, remained calm. He had sailed these waters for decades. Ice was to be expected in April. Officers took note of the warnings, but saw no immediate threat. Passengers, of course, knew nothing. They saw only the glittering dinners, the deck games, the endless expanse of calm sea. On the evening of April 13th, Titanic's passengers enjoyed concerts, card games, and conversations about the bright future that awaited them in New York. But the sea does not shout its warnings. It whispers. Titanic's wireless operators were some of the busiest men aboard. The Marconi system was a marvel, allowing passengers to send telegrams across the ocean. Messages of love, business deals, family news. Titanic's operators tapped them out, one dot and dash at a time. But this service had a cost. Passenger telegrams often took priority over navigational warnings. Ice messages, urgent but repetitive, risked being overlooked in the flurry of social chatter. On the evening of April 13th, Phillips and Bride worked late into the night. They logged more ice warnings. They tapped out messages for wealthy passengers. They kept the ship connected with the outside world. But somewhere in the static of the airwaves, the sea was trying to be heard. The next morning, April 14th, dawned clear and bright. Titanic steamed steadily westward, covering hundreds of miles a day. Her engines hummed. Her passengers thrived in their floating world. Children played on the decks, racing each other along the railings. Couples strolled arm in arm, gazing out at the endless blue. In third class, families gathered for church services, their voices singing hymns that echoed through the corridors. To all, Titanic seemed invincible. The voyage was a triumph of technology, a celebration of progress. Yet the ice lay ahead, drifting silently, waiting. By April 14th, the warnings became more urgent. The America reported 2 large icebergs directly in Titanic's path. The Mesaba warned of heavy pack ice and great number of large icebergs directly ahead. These messages, too, were received in the wireless room. Some were passed along, others were delayed. A few were missed altogether in the noise of transmissions. Still, Titanic pressed on, her speed unaltered. She cut through the waves at over 22 knots, eager to maintain schedule and impress the world with her power and reliability. The White Star Line's executives had promised the world the greatest liner ever built. Titanic was to arrive in New York not only safely, but proudly, as proof that Britain still ruled the seas. Captain Smith had no orders to break records, but a timely arrival was expected. And besides, ice warnings were part of any Atlantic crossing. No one truly believed an iceberg could harm Titanic. This confidence was shared across the decks. Passengers toasted their good fortune, unaware that just beyond the horizon, a frozen barrier stretched silently across their path. On April 14th, Titanic's passengers witnessed a sunset unlike any other. The sky glowed crimson and gold, fading into deep purple as the ship sailed westward. Lanterns flickered to life on deck. Music floated from the first-class saloon. Laughter carried on the night air. The sea itself was eerily calm, flat as glass. Not a ripple disturbed the waters. It was the perfect night for sailing, so serene that some remarked it felt unnatural. But sailors know this truth. When the ocean grows too calm, danger often lurks unseen. As night fell on April 14th, Titanic steamed ahead at full speed. In the wireless room, Jack Phillips tapped out passenger telegrams, brushing aside yet another ice warning as he rushed to keep up with demand. The great ship moved ever forward, her lights glowing against the dark sea. Passengers slept in comfort, or danced, or whispered promises beneath the stars. No one aboard knew that Titanic was heading straight into a field of icebergs. The sea had given its warnings. The men aboard had heard them. But the confidence of steel and steam, of wealth and power, drowned out the whispers of the ocean. In just a few hours, the Atlantic would make its voice heard in the most terrible way imaginable. The Atlantic had spoken. The sea had warned them again and again. But aboard Titanic, confidence drowned out caution. Soon, under a starlit sky, she would steam into the most fateful night in maritime history. This was Episode 3, A Warning from the Sea. Join us in Episode 4 as Titanic sails into the darkness and the first shadows of disaster appear. Subscribe now and continue the journey only on Dusk Times.